Hey everybody, welcome, welcome, welcome. I am back for another live, and today is exciting because I have a guest with me, none other than Brooke-Sidney, and she's going to be talking all about how you can leverage your book to actually grow your business. You guys know I'm all about helping you grow your business so that you can exit your career and have more time for family, for travel, and self-care. And a way that you can grow your business is by actually becoming a published author. Okay. So if you've ever thought about being an author, if you've ever thought about writing a book, if you've ever anything related to becoming an author, right? We're going to be talking about it today. And so again, I have none other than Brooke-Sidney, who's going to be talking all about the process of writing a book, publishing a book, so that you can leverage it to actually grow your business. So if you have questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments so that we can answer those questions for you. Again, anything related to publishing a book, writing a book, the whole process, what it takes, how do you even get started? We're going to be diving into that today. So you want to make sure that you tune in, and also make sure you drop your comments so that we can answer all those questions. All right. So she's going to be joining me shortly. While you're joining, go ahead and share this live stream with someone that you will find it helpful. And then also make sure you drop some hearts so that we know you are in the building. Let us know that you're here. Say hello and drop your questions. All right, there we go. All right, y'all. Come on in and say hello. All right. I am accepting your request to join. If you are there, let me know, because I just saw your request to join and I accepted it, but it doesn't seem like it's doing anything. So just let me know if you can request again. Let's see. I'm going to invite you. Maybe that'll help. All right, we made it.
Hi. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. I don't know what happened. Like, I saw your request and I hit accept and it just wasn't doing anything. I don't know. Instagram's weird.
Fantastic. Yes. So nice
How are
to meet you virtually.
Same. How are you in sunny California?
I'm good. Today it's been a little overcast. They say it never rains in Southern California, but it was drizzling earlier, but it looks like it's clearing up. So
Okay.
Excited for that. Yes.
All right. So I'm excited to talk to you, and hopefully we'll have some people joining in who are also excited about publishing and writing their first book. So let's start with sharing how exactly you got into book coaching and helping people be able to tell their stories.
Okay, well, I always bring God into it because I feel like, that's where it all flows from. So as you know, a little girl, I was super into books, and I was the child where my parents said, specifically my dad said, you need to get a real job. You need, worry about getting a real job. Because I said, oh, I want to write books and I want to be on television and do all these things. So I went back to school. I did my undergrad. I went back to school and I got my master's in journalism and so forth, and learned how to quickly write things, learned about leads, learned about publishing, just learned about everything from that side. But I did this and the market crashed. This was like back in 2008, 2009. I don't know if y'all remember that, right? The other big recession that, the people are talking about it still. So I was publishing, I was writing, doing a lot of things. And then the market crashed and my job at CNBC went away. It was frozen. So my dad at that time was like, it's time for you to go to law school. It's time for you to become, get a real job kind of thing, right? And I was offended. So I was offended. I said, you know what? I'm going to be able to make a living out of writing. You watch, you know what I'm saying? Even though I'm saying it to myself, not being disrespectful, but right. I'm like, okay. So I went on to law school, and obviously writing and books followed me there, because what started happening was people started asking me to help them with their books. I then went on, I became editor-in-chief of the Law Review. And I don't know if you're familiar, but a law review is a whole bunch of books put together. And so I was helping lawyers, professors, and so forth create essentially many books to go inside this huge book that's volumes And I put out 4 of those a year. And then I just kept going on. And even when I graduated law school and had gone on and I was working as a lawyer at EPA, as an honors attorney, people were still asking me, Brooke, can you help me with my book? And so I always say with the book, and then I wrote my own, I have my Mama Love Planner and different things. I always say sometimes you have to look at where God is gifting you and what keeps following you. I can honestly say I'm a lawyer. Everyone knows I'm a lawyer. I'm an entertainment IP attorney, business law IP. So it goes perfectly with my book practice. But the books kept following me. It's the business that honestly God gave me. I can honestly say that. And so I've gone on to help, hundreds of authors now write, publish, edit. I do all the different stages of book work. So I'm also a ghostwriter. So some of the books that you may be reading, I've written. And I love that aspect. I love that because from being a journalist, I don't care about bylines. That's the thing. I don't care about my name because I've been published so much that it doesn't bother me anymore. I love helping people get their stories out. And so I was doing ghostwriting. Then people started having me edit what they'd written. And I started taking on more editing projects and then doing what's called developmental editing, where you take a manuscript, a messy manuscript, and you turn it into a book. And this for me is fun, y'all. This is fun. So, because I love words and I love stories. And so it just started really just snowballing and building over time. And, I remember because I kept saying, Lord, I want to write. I'm just being honest. I want to write more books. And God's like, no, I've called you to help birth books. Ooh. And so I almost feel like every time I start on my 3rd book or something, here comes somebody else, or here comes 2 other clients that need my help. And so I've got hundreds of books now that I've helped birth and write and create. And I look at it like movie producing. I have a lot of movie producer clients. They produce movies. Well, I produce and develop books. So I just love it. I just love it. So that's kind of how I've gotten into it.
I love your enthusiasm about it. Like, like you can tell like this is genuinely what you love. And so I know that you pour that same energy into your clients and helping them achieve their goals of, publishing their book. So, so this is so interesting. So I have 2 books and I had no intention of writing books. Let me tell you, never thought that would be the case. And it was kind of like a natural progression because I blogged. So that's how I kind of started on the online space. I was a blogger. And then people would say, well, why don't you turn this into a book? Like, why don't you combine? And so that's how it started, the first book, right, in 2015. And then the next one came, I want to say in 2018. Had no intentions of writing another book. And I remember speaking at an event and people were like, well, do you have a book to go with what you just talked about? And so I'm just like, no. And one of the person who actually ended up editing my book was there. And she was like, you need to write a book and I'm going to help you. And so that's why I understand the importance of having a book when it comes to business. I definitely think it helps establish you as an authority and it helps you build your credibility, especially when you are working with news and media outlets. Like having that author after your name, I think helps. So to me, I believe it's something that anyone who is in the expert field, coaching, consulting, educator, trainer, you need to have a book. And so that's why we're talking about it today. So let's talk about the basics. Where do we start? What's the first step to even writing a book? Like you have the idea. I just told people they need to write a book. So what's their actual first step?
Well, I would say the first step after you actually know what your idea is, truly fleshing it out. I can't tell you the amount of times that the idea starts and then it changes. So you'll start one place and then you'll end up being somewhere else. So truly fleshing out that idea, figuring out what it is, and start mapping it out. Start thinking about what you actually would say. I'm a very practical, it's really hard to say. So I'm very spiritual, but I'm also very practical.
No, I get it.
I believe that the books that we're being called to write, they service someone else. Unless you're publishing your journal or something like that, then your book is meeting someone else's problem. It's meeting someone else's need. So a lot of people will have a story idea and it will be amazing. And then I say, that's great. Who's God calling you to reach? What problem are you solving with that book? because that then helps to frame your story. That then helps
Mm.
to frame what you're writing about. Because yes, we love, and I get manuscripts all the time where it's like, this is what I did, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's great. Now let's transform those words into something that can benefit and help someone else. So
Right.
then we have to start identifying what is the problem that you're solving, especially if you're trying to be an author entrepreneur or author expert and establish your business platform. What are you solving for folks? What is the need? What are you solving for folks? And then let's talk about how we can do that through your book.
That's so important. That
Yeah.
is one of my mentors in my head that I listen to all the time. Like, no one really cares about you. They really care about how you can help them. And so even if it is your story, your testimony, how can you frame it to help someone else
Yes.
solve their problem? Okay.
Yes. That's so true, because most of the people that we follow, like I have definitely people that I'm fangirls of or whatever. There's a reason why I follow them, is because there's something that's in them that I know that's also in me. And so, right, give me the goods, give me the goods. I want to understand how you got there. I want to understand what you did. I want to understand how you thought about it, all of those things. And that's what you put into your book. Kind of when I first started doing this, people started having me, because I was in the coaching world. I used to coach specifically on, believe it or not, mother stuff. That's why I was like, I love it. That's why I created my Mama Love Planner and different things. I used to help mamas specifically with mindset and mindfulness and manifestation. And I still do all those. I still am a transformational coach. But one of the things I realized is that a lot of people didn't know how they got results. So they were coaching in this world and they didn't understand how they got people from point A to point B. So I started taking on clients that literally I helped them create their signature framework.
Yeah.
And people were like, what is it that you do? And I was like, I don't really know. I just help you figure out how you got your results. And I've done that for some of the bigger coaches out here. And I learned that it's like, people will come for the story. They will come for, and people are attracted to story. Every point should have a story, and every point should have a story, and every story should have a point. But you've got to have a framework for getting your client, your ideal reader from point A to point B. And of course, a lot of personality, I feel like.
That's so, yeah. I love that you said that, because one of the things that I teach the moms in my program, so I teach them how to create their signature offer, their high ticket offer, right, coaching programs. And the one thing that I teach them is, like, when you have that framework, when you understand your journey from point A to point B, that's intellectual property. So it becomes your coaching program, it becomes your book, it becomes your speaking topic, it becomes like literally anything can come from having a framework. But to your point, most people know they got from point A to point B, but they're not able to strategically look at each of the steps to understand how exactly they got there so that someone else can follow that same path. So to that point, I love the fact that you're teaching them, hey, this is a framework that you have to flesh out, and you're giving them keys to literally building,
oh my goodness,
successful businesses.
That's the thing. And you know it too, because once you have that framework fleshed out, you can take that framework and you can turn it into, just as you were saying, so what I say on the other side, a speech, a coaching program, workshops, a TED Talk, a course, a program, all of these things. And then if you know specifically where someone is on the spectrum of your framework, when they come to you, you know exactly how to help them. Oh, you're actually on step 2. Then I can help you here, or your client is, here. And that just gives you so much credibility. It also, and I'm an IP attorney, it also allows you to have a signature or proprietary system that then is something you can later go on and trademark and do all the branding and so forth around it. So it's an entire package. It's an entire way to start thinking strategically about your business. But I do believe at the end of the day, God gives it to you. I do. That's the spiritual and the practical mixed in together.
Listen, faith without works. So my first book was, I don't have it up here. Shame on me. It's somewhere back there. But that was the whole, like, it was my testimony, so to speak, like my journey. But I was like, I have to put this in a practical way that someone who's investing, even though it's a small amount, investing in purchasing and also their time in reading it, they can look at it and go step by step. Okay, this is the first thing. This is the second. This is and they can be able to get the transformation even from reading the book. So this is such a good conversation. I'm enjoying it.
It's so good. And I will say too, to all the coaches out there, because I've had even one of my current writers, she's going to take the book and we're kind of already planning for it. It's what I help you do, planning for her different workshops and programs in her coaching program, because she's transitioning out of 9-to-5 world. She was always said, well, I'm giving it away. I'm giving away my thing. No, there's always more where it came from. So, you know, we don't operate from a position of lack. We operate from a position of abundance. God gave us more where there's more that it comes, you know, there's more outflowing. You're working from the overflow. But more importantly, a book is only one thing. People don't apply, right? Wisdom is applied knowledge. And so that's where the coaching programs and the courses and all that come in. And to me, the coaches and one-on-ones, because that's where you step in and you help the application. Most people will read a book. Unfortunately, you know, you can solve a lot. Man, the world of our solutions is hidden in books. But most people don't apply it. So that's where the coaching programs and everything else comes in. That's why it's a perfect match. It really is. And I always believe there's more from where it came from. So you got book 1, you got book 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever.
Right. Listen, I know so I haven't written a book with the framework that I teach in my coaching program, but I know that it has to be written. So this is just further confirmation that, girl, you're going to have to write this book.
That's right. That's right.
And so I guess, do you work in the reverse where, I think maybe you have said that, like, you're working with people who have the coaching program and the framework, but now you're helping them, you know, package it into book form.
Yes, I can go either way. And so that's what I'm saying. When you know your framework, like I know I can go from soup to nuts, ghostwriting all the way to publishing. I know where you fall in because, for example, if you come and you already have a coaching program and that's what you want your book to be about, then we're going to flesh it out. We're going to put some meat on those bones and we're going to create a book. We're not going to reinvent the wheel, but I'm going to make sure you have the proper stories, that it's enticing, that it's fun, and that it is actually going to get the person from point A to point B. That's where I come in. And it makes it, honestly, it makes it a little bit easier if you already know your framework. But on the other side, I have brand new people. Like one of my current clients, she's writing a book on purpose, God purpose, understanding your purpose, which is distinct from a job or whatever you think that you're doing. And so by writing this book, and me asking those hard questions, being the attorney and journalist that I am, we're fleshing out her framework. Because I keep saying, now, if you were at this point, how are we getting them to this point? So now we're basically almost done. And she's got workshops, courses, programs that we already know are going to be from chapter 2 or from chapter 4. So wherever you are in this process, you know, you can do it wherever you are. That's why I tell people there's no excuses.
This is really good. Okay, so someone has the idea, they have the framework, or maybe they don't have the framework, but they have the story that they want to share. So they've kind of mapped it out. So what's the next step in the process of from getting it here to actually tangibly having something in their hands?
I would honestly say a book coach. I'm going to be honest with you, because a book coach or a book program is going to, and I'll say it to my friendly colleagues that do the same. It helps you complete. It helps you finish. So many people have, I will say, like the finishing spirit, but not the anointing of completion. And so it sounds fun to start a book. It sounds fun to talk about a book, but writing a book is hard work. And writing a book is a very solitary task. And so when you partner with someone, at the very minimum, get a writing buddy, because what you want to do next is you want to create some sort of a writing plan or a writing schedule, right? If you don't, you fail to plan, you planning to fail, essentially. So we need a writing schedule. We need a writing plan. We're not going to rely on the muse. Like, we're not going to rely on when God taps us on the shoulder and is like, remember, you're supposed to be writing a book. No. We're going to have a concerted plan to get us all the way from start to finish, knowing that there's detours, knowing that life happens. But when you have that plan to fall back on, that's the way you actually do get it done. I'm not a big fan of books in a weekend. I make a lot of jokes. Y'all probably seen all my reels. I make a lot of jokes on those because I know that it's setting people up for disappointment. And it's probably the lawyer in me. I'm very practical. Even though I'm spiritual, I'm very practical. And I feel like we got to walk it out. And when I'm trying to help people create a book that is not just for the present moment, but a legacy building book, a book that they're going to be proud of, not just today because they wrote it in a weekend, but be proud of it 2 or 5 years from now, and that it is truly a legacy building thing. And so that takes time, that takes editing, that takes work, that takes to get it published properly, that takes planning, that takes marketing, that takes sowing some seeds. And so I really do believe that it's that next part is that planning and that structure, time, and commitment to writing that takes us the next step.
So there are 2 things that I want to talk about that you mentioned. So the first thing is you're talking about writing a book, or actually publishing is showing that you complete things. And I was writing now as I was thinking about some things that we could talk about today. I thought to myself, the reason that I feel like writing a book or publishing a book is good for business is because it shows that you complete things. It shows that you have discipline. It shows that you're dedicated, and it shows that you're focused. So outside of it being this thing that you can say, I did, like, it just shows more characteristics of who you are as a person so that people can trust you if they're making an investment into you as a coach or whatever you are to them in business. And then the second thing that you said was this whole idea of write a book in a weekend and workshops around writing a book, publish your book in 3 days, write your book. And I laugh at that so much because I'm like, there's more to that story. Like, this is repurposed content at that point. Like, come on, you pull something that and it's probably not going to be the best representation of you. So no shade to people who do it in that weekend, but I would say that it's probably more to that story in that it may not be the best representation of who you are and what you want to present and the legacy that you want to leave for yourself.
And just like that, I know who my clients are, right? And usually my clients are the ones that are a little bit more perfectionistic, because I am. Like, I'm a hard hitter. If you read any of my reviews and testimonies, though, like, she's loving, she's warm, she's kind, but she ain't I'm gonna make sure you finish. I want you to put out a quality work that you'll be proud of and that I'll be proud of, because my name's on it too. I think that we often sell ourselves short. I don't believe in shortcuts. I believe in working smart. And I think that, we need to spend some time doing, nothing was made in a day. Mm-hmm. And most things are made in a weekend. Now, there are some powerful things that we can accomplish in a weekend. We can flesh out our book idea. We can outline our book. We can start thinking about our marketing plan. There's so many things that we can do in a weekend. But, maybe it's the lawyer in me. Integrity. I'm like, most of us are not finishing a book in a weekend. And I know they have continuation programs and all that, but I'm just so straight up. I'm like, this isn't a serious endeavor. It's a serious endeavor. And it takes your heart, mind, and spirit to really put out something that you're going to be proud of, okay, and not embarrassed by. And I think most thoughtful and intentional entrepreneurs and business people, they're picking up what I'm putting down in that way. And so there's room, I feel like, for all of us, but I just advise people just to think through how they really want that product to turn out.
So when you're thinking about, hey, we're actually putting out something of good quality, right? Something that we can stand on. What's the time frame for that process? Is there a specific time frame that you give your clients? Like, what does that actually look like? We know it's not a weekend, right?
No. I tell people realistically, it's 3 to 4 months, and that's still you going hard. That's mm-hmm. still you going hard in the paint. That is you writing and doing your part. That is you from the day you pick up the pen or start to type the letters on the keyboard. You're starting to market already. We don't wait till the book is finished to do the marketing for the book. So that is built into my coaching programs. But I'm just saying, like, 4 months, 16 weeks, yes, you can get it out. You can get it done. But most people, especially if you're doing this while you're working a job, if you're doing this as you have some kids and you have a husband, most people, 4 to 6 months is reasonable, right? And that's why I'm saying to create something that's soul quality, high level legacy book.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's talk about your process then. So you're helping them develop the framework in some cases. You're helping writing. They're going through the editing process and all that stuff. So what are the other steps that they would go? Marketing, is that a part of what you teach as well?
Yes. So I believe that you start marketing the book the moment that you have finalized what that book is going to be. Right. And now with social media, it's so easy to start to do that and build people's interest in your idea, in you, and what you're putting forward. And so I know one of the things was like publisher or self-published. So the majority of my clients that I help, they are self-publishing. Now, my ghostwriting contracts and all those are usually for publisher contracts. Those people have a publishing deal and they don't want to write it. Okay, so that's a different thing. But I do help people develop book proposals as well. But the majority of my clients, I would say 90% of my clients that I'm helping write a book, they are self-publishing. But that gives us so much flexibility, and it also turns people into business owners. There's a lot of people looking for side hustles. I'm like, hustle this. You already have all the information in your mind. You have something that you've gone through that you can share. And now with social media, it's so easy to do. It's so easy to market, especially if you're willing to show up authentically and be a little courageous and to share. And so that's kind of part of the coaching process too, because a lot of people don't understand that we are our own block most of the time and I know, you know, as a coach, we're our own block. You know, all the resistance starts coming, imposter syndrome, especially when you're starting the book, I find, and finishing the book. You know, all of a sudden, oh, I don't know this. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Because you were uniquely called to write this book. And so my program builds all of those elements in the mindset part that we need to do, the structuring part of actually writing and composing the book. I call it book development, and then the marketing and promotional parts of it. So it's all the different parts. There's Joelle. Hello, one of my clients.
Hey.
So yeah, it's great.
All right. Thanks for joining, Stat, for popping in. Okay, so let's talk about getting book sales. So I saw like you had some clients who were like a bestseller and I'm sure you have multiple, right? But I let's talk about how do we get to that point, right? So, you know, this is maybe someone's first book. And for most people, the idea for them to sell a book is to, you know, actually make sales. For other people, it may just be a lead magnet, authority builder, whatever.
Right.
So for those who are like, well, I want this to be my thing, my business, right? My main thing. How do we get more sales as authors?
So as the first thing is like figuring out what we're going to do with it. I think that most, even my clients that are number one in their category or number one, like in their niche, right? That's what we're ultimately looking for, especially if you're looking for bestseller status. They already kind of know where that book is supposed to take them. They've already figured out before we started what the goal of that book is. So you don't get to the end and be like, okay, now I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do and make money with this book. So, you know, to that end, you start with the end in mind.
Gotcha.
And so if you know that you're using it to build media, then we're planning on getting you media, right? And I definitely have clients where we're hiring PR for and doing the thing. But if you're not doing that, then we're making sure strategically that you're in the right categories. A lot of people are putting books on Amazon and putting books places, doing it themselves. And they're not in the right category to win. They're not in the right category to win. And so there is something to be said for that whole part of building the Amazon, like Author Central, and making sure you're in the right categories, making sure you're in places that you can win, that you're building out that Author Central portion, that you are knowing where you're going to drive your book sales, knowing what you're going to do in those first couple of weeks, because those are key to becoming a bestseller, especially on Amazon. All of these are marketing and promotional things that, you know, I help my clients do. But the key point is that like your cover design, all of these things are really elements that take you from novice to professional. And so it's really important that, you know, we're working on all those components and you're kind of knowing what the end goal is when you begin.
That's so important. So I'm a DIYer. So when you said not knowing, I'm like, me, you're talking about me. And I know that about myself. So I'm like, the next go round, I know that I have to get support because this is going to be the thing that, you know, I have to make sure it's at, you know, a level of excellence that reflects how far I've come since the last
The
time
other ones,
I
that's
published books.
right. And that's right. Because there are people, you know, my team now consists of PR people, consists of editors, not just me. It consists now of Amazon specialists.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
yes, I'm not like, that's what I'm saying. We're not playing around with your book. And so there are people that just specialize in writing book blurbs, making sure that your description of your book is like, dare I say, magical, that it's enticing, that it's magnetic, that it, you know, draws the people that want to read it. Those things once again take time, and they take intentionality. They take us, you know, really looking at it and mapping it all out. That's why I believe in the whole planning and taking the time to do it right.
So what are some common mistakes that you are seeing with maybe some of the clients that you've brought on, or just in general within the industry, that people are making as they are leveraging their book to grow their business, writing their books?
I would say the number one mistake is not spending time, money, and energy on editing. Editing is your friend, and there are multiple stages of editing. Most people think that editing is just like the line by line edit at the end. I have so many people that come to me and they're like, "Oh, we want to get a copy edit." I'm like, "Wait, wait, wait, whoa! Did you get a developmental edit? Are you ensured that you actually have a quality book that achieves its goals here? Are your themes consistent? Is your voice consistent? Do you talk about character A in the first chapter and we never hear about him until the last chapter? All of these things, is your voice, all of this is what really makes a quality book. And so most people, they come to me for a copy edit and I'm like, boop, boop, we need to get you to the developmental edit first. Do that part, and then we'll go into the copy edit and so forth and start mapping out all the different layers. But I think editing is really what separates a novice from a professional. And it's not to say that your book is going to be perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Random House, all the places they're as an editor, I see all the nitpicks, I see the errors. So there's never a perfect book, but that's different than your book being chock full of errors, or your book not being consistent, or worse yet, your book not really delivering on its promise. And so I'm not a bait and switch person. I don't believe in that. And so I think that whatever you promise your reader, whatever you're coming forth to solve, you actually need to solve that. And
Right.
developmental editing, that's your first step in making sure that you have a good book.
This is so good. Y'all drop your questions if you have any. Trish, thank you. I appreciate that compliment for us. If
Oh,
you
so
if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them. So you did mention like characters, right? So is it a specific, do you do both fiction and nonfiction books?
no, I primarily do nonfiction. I've done some historical fiction, and I've done some books. I do spiritual. I love doing spiritual writing, and so I've had some clients where it was literally one of my favorite books to do was it was a spiritual fiction sci-fi book. And this particular author had to convince me to help him with the book. But I say character loosely because
Okay.
ultimately you're a character in your own book. Your stories, your examples, those are all characters. I have a client right now where she has created a fictional character, right, which is a composite of some of her clients or future clients, right? We can do that. And that particular person, that example, that illustration, it needs to be there in the beginning and in the end. So I helped someone do recently, one of my bigger clients, Dr. Rawls, worked actually for the entire company and helped them do this book. He'd have examples of clients that he had helped. And so we can't bring up client, Meg in chapter 1, and then we're bringing her back up again in chapter, 10, and no one remembers who the heck is Meg. So it's all of that. It's making sure that the characters, the examples, the stories are actually showing what you're telling, because we want to show and not just tell, and all of that.
All right. So we got a question from Trish. She says, do y'all utilize publishers? So do you have to self-publish, or do you have, or I guess you mentioned assisting people who go through publishers as like a ghostwriter or something.
So I'm a little unclear because I think that there's also what they call like self-publishers. So there's companies out there that also publish books. They do that, and depending upon my client, I have worked with them. I've worked with Book Baby to, as I say, be the consultant as we're mapping out this project. A book is a major undertaking, you know. You wouldn't up and decide to create a podcast or a show tomorrow and decide to do it by yourself. But for some reason, people think doing a book is they can just do it on their own. You know, it to be a quality production, you have several different legs of it. And so I do utilize some publishers, or I can do it myself depending upon my client. That's where I do like the consulting aspect and figure out what are your goals? What are you trying to do? Where do you need the book to be? How are you starting out? And of course, what is your budget? Right? There's all those different considerations. But for self-publishing, that's where you as the author and the entrepreneur get to make those calls.
So to your point, when we're thinking about budgeting for someone who wants to write a book or investing in writing a book for their business, what should they have in mind for, I guess, even the base for getting started on something that's going to be quality?
That's really hard. I think that's hard to say because it depends on, again, who you hire and, you know, where you go. I think that for quality, you know, you're going to spend a couple thousand, maybe 5 to 10. I'm just being honest, to have a good cover, to put it forth professionally, to get the proper editing done, to get a book coach and all those kind of things. Right now, of course, can you find people on Fiverr? Sure. Like, you know what I mean? It all depends on where you know, also, do you have any natural gifting? Like, are you really good at graphic design? Are you really good at all of these things, right? Do you have a person in your family that's a photographer that can take your headshots and do your author bio? You know, all of these are components that go into having a high quality legacy book. Now, if you're just trying to put up an ebook and, you know, that's what I'm saying. Right. It's different based on what your goal is.
Gotcha. All right. So now if someone was like, I want to get started, do you have a checklist or something? Where can they go to figure out like how to get started with writing and publishing their book?
Well, I do what's called a book chat. And so I do a free 15, 20-minute book chat. They can go on. It's all in my link tree. You can go on and do the book chat. And the reason why I do that is because so many people are in different positions. And I say that because if you've already written a book, you don't need a checklist telling you how to do this, you know, do this and that. I need to understand what you're trying to do and how you can do it. And I feel like my greatest service is to point people on the right path, even if they don't choose me as their editor. So as a book consultant and developer, I can let you know, this is what you're thinking about doing. Here are some options. And then you make, you know, pray about it, make the most enlightened choice. But I think that we do people kind of a disservice because they can find that on the internet. But I really want to give something action powered, and 15 to 20 minutes of me sitting down and talking to you about your book goals and what you've done. You'll leave that call, I feel like, smarter and wiser about your next steps.
Awesome. Now, I want to tap into your legal side for a second, right?
Sure.
So now that someone has written and published a book, what are some of the next steps to making sure that their intellectual property is protected and this is something that they can use in other business ventures?
So it's multi-pronged. So on the book side, you want to make sure that you are getting your book properly copyrighted, not the little common man copyright where we, you know, obviously, of course, everyone has original ownership over their, you know, original creation. So whatever you write, no, you want to get it federally copyrighted. So that's the process that you want to do. Send off a copy of your book, make sure it is actually copyrighted, because that gives us as attorneys on this side greater enforcement when plagiarism and all those things happen. And they do happen more than you think. Okay, so that's one whole aspect of it, the copyright part, also as well as like your website and so forth. Then on the trademark side, so a book, a lot of people think a book is trademarkable. It's not trademarkable unless it's a series. However, your book title can become a brand, can become a program. That's when we start getting into the trademarking of that. And I love trademarks. So it's really, the sky is the limit. And I'm just now starting to advise people to start thinking about when they're older and they want to actually exit the company. So many of us think about companies, you know, oh, it's so hard to build them. Let's think in the positive. You built it. Now what you're going to do with it.
Right.
One of the key things to that is making sure all of your IP, all of these intellectual property, which are really, really assets, that they're in line and that you're positioning yourself ultimately to be sold or bought, right? So all of those IP, your copyright, your trademarks, building out your brand, protecting your image online, all of those things are important when you're building this like high quality legacy business.
I think the important thing here for people to know is like when we're talking about book writing in this aspect of helping leveraging it to grow your business, this is not just I'm going to get a few sales off of my Black Friday ebook sale.
Exactly.
Right. This is intellectual property that I'm using to establish me as an authority, show credibility, to help people get a transformation, and to be a legacy for what I'm building with my business. So I think there's a difference in, yes, anyone can write a book, and you can write a book in a weekend, but this is more of, hey, we're trying to create something of substance here. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and drop them there. And do you have any, I guess, biggest piece of advice that you want to give before we hop off?
I want to speak to people's heart and souls, because I have a new soul story writers group. It's free. It's on Facebook. Feel free to jump in, because I feel like part of writing is nourishing your writing and nourishing your spirit. And the reason why I say that is that the moment you decide to do something big and great, and I think writing a book is big and great, people call it, you know, the opposition will jump up, our little me, our negative thinking. And so I really want you to hold steadfast to that book idea. That's the idea that God drops into your mind and your spirit, and truly takes the steps to work it out. Don't quit on yourself. Get help if you need it. But if I could leave that with anyone, because I believe everyone has a story to share. I don't believe any of us are created on accident. And so there is something that if you are living and breathing today, you have gone through that can help someone else. And don't take that for granted. I really do. I really do.
So good. So guys, if you haven't already, make sure you follow Brooke-Sidney. And if you are new to me, go ahead and hit follow. I help moms grow their businesses and exit their 9-to-5 so that they can have more time for travel, family, and self-care. So hopefully you guys found this helpful. I certainly did. I definitely am like writing this down on the list of things that I need to follow up on as I enter into this, you know, season where I'm thinking about the legacy and how I'm going to grow my business. So thank you so much. I appreciate all of your insight. And again, tell people where they can find you and resources to connect concerning books.
Definitely. So if you're following me on Instagram, make sure you're following me on Instagram. My link tree in there has all the different things. You can also text the word books to 888-210-2665 to get on my new, I love all this new, that's something, we have so much technology, to get on my new text list. But all of the book chat information, all of that is in my link tree. My new planner for my 2023s are coming out. And so for anyone that is associated with FO, I would like to give you a 20% discount. So use FO Mama to get 20% off my planner. And my planner is designed for women and mamas that need to make time for themselves, self-care, have a gratitude practice, and make sure that we implement the spirit as we're walking out our day. And so all that information is on my site. So Brooke-Sidney.com and my link tree are the best places to reach me. But I want to encourage everyone to honestly trust their ideas, trust their spirit, and the ideas that are coming through.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And if you guys miss anything, the replay will be available for you to catch. So make sure you check it out to get all those gems. Thank you so much, Brooke-Sidney. I appreciate your time, guys. And we will chat later. Bye, guys.
Thank you. And thanks everyone who came. I see all of you. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.